I've done a lot of change management consulting for a wide range of organizations, including Apple, Cisco, Intel, and others. And one key question I normally get is, how do you achieve change management successes? In this video, I will show you the 6 steps to ensuring effective change management success for your projects, programs, or initiatives. Let's jump right into it. There are some things for you to keep in mind. One, overall readiness level. So this chart that we are looking at here shows that 18 impacted users are ready, have a high level of readiness for a change. The second thing to keep in mind is this on the right, training completion. That shows that only 14% of impacted users have successfully passed training. Something else to keep in mind is this, adoption score per audience. So you will notice that human resources, two of them have a high level of adoption. One of them has a mid-level of adoption. All of these are examples that we've put together for today's demo. Evaluating whether your initiative has truly delivered change management success requires a structured and measurable process. Too often, organizations declare success when a project goes live. But true success means employees are adopting the change. It means change is being sustained, and it means the change is helping to improve business outcomes. That is success. There are 6 steps for you to keep in mind for achieving change management success for your program or project. Step number 1, define success metrics at the start. This means clarifying what success looks like early on. As a change management consultant, I often see projects struggle because at the beginning of the project, they failed to define what success looks like. Examples of what success, change management success looks like include 80% of employee adoption within 6 months. Now, notice something. It is measurable, 80% within 6 months. Another example is reduce error rates in new systems. Another example is meeting compliance deadlines. And one more, improved customer satisfaction scores. Improving customer satisfaction scores that can include internal customers as well as external customers. What is an internal customer? An internal customer is a department or group within an organization that uses the services or tools of another group within that organization. Improving customer satisfaction scores can be measured. How? Well, you can measure before you implement your change and then measure after you've implemented your change. The expectation of change management success is when you see an improvement in the satisfaction. In total, all of these change management success KPIs will become your benchmarks for achieving change management. And here's an example of change management success in action. We conducted a first readiness assessment with impacted stakeholders. We sent them a survey for them to provide responses as to how ready they were for a change. You will notice that in the beginning, a lot of them scored low for awareness, acceptance, knowledge, and also proficiency. A few of them had mid score versus low for some of these. And overall, our first assessment, the average readiness level was a low. We then implemented effective change management practices. We did effective communications. We did go live readiness, countdown readiness. Go live is coming soon. Go live has arrived. Post go live communications. We did roadshows to engage impacted users and give them the opportunity to ask questions. We delivered training. We delivered office hours. We delivered a wide range of change management support, after which we did a second assessment. And here you will notice the big difference. Now, the average readiness level was a high. A lot of the same impacted users scored high for I have the awareness about why the change is happening. I've accepted the change, and I am bought into the change. I have the right knowledge because I have been trained, and I have a high level of proficiency because I have been given the opportunity to practice and also attended office hours and support sessions to ask questions and seek help. This is an example of a before. Here's the before, low change successes. And here is an example of the after change management successes. All right, so I just want to emphasize that the names and the titles that you are seeing on today's demos, these are all fictitious names and titles, not real people. Okay? All right, now you can use any change management software to conduct this level of change readiness or other change management success tracking. You can also use the OCM solution all-in-one software. The link is below, and you can sign up for the free trial to just poke around and see how you can use the platform to increase your change management successes. And that brings us to step number 2. So for step number 2, it really involves mapping stakeholders and their readiness. So you want to identify all groups that are being impacted by the change. That includes leaders, managers, frontline staff, customers, supervisors, senior directors, and directors, and more. You want to assess their readiness levels, and you can use surveys, you can do interviews, you can also do readiness assessments, just like what I just showed you on my screen, where you can send out a survey to gauge readiness for a change. Something that is also important to do is this: segment stakeholders into high risk versus low risk groups for better targeting. Let me illustrate all of these different points that I just said. Now, remember, you can use any change management software for this exercise. We are currently using the all-in-one OCM solution. So if your organization is signed up to the OCMS software, you want to go to audiences right here. And what we are looking at here is the target audience for our demo project. Once again, none of these names or titles are real. They're all put together for the purpose of today's demo. Here you can identify your target audience, or you can enter your target audience. When you go to tools, you click on change impact. Here is where you do a change impact assessment of the individuals and also the departments that will be impacted by your change. Here is where you identify the groups as well as the current state and also the future state. Stakeholders is another one. Here is where you identify the different individuals, leaders, managers, frontline staff. So for our example, Juliana, once again, fictitious name, is a recruiter. Livia is a vice president in the marketing department. right? So this is a way you can actually segment your users into specific departments. And then you can also identify for each stakeholder what is the impact level or the risk level. And then in regards to readiness, we already went over the readiness assessment that you want to do just to measure how ready your users are for a particular change. So if you go into the change management software that your organization is using, you want to look for a button, readiness. When you click on readiness, here is where you can do your assessments. You can do your first baseline assessment. You can do your second assessment after a period of time has passed. You can do more assessments just to track people's readiness over time. And if the change management software you are using has a built-in robust reporting dashboard like what we are looking at here, then you want to scroll to where you see your overall readiness level. So for this particular project, you will notice that when we did the first assessment, only one person was ready. Now it's 20. When we did our first assessment, 20 people down here said they were not ready. But when we did our second assessment, that dropped to one person not being ready. And that moves us to step number 3. For step number 3, you want to measure communications and training effectiveness. When measuring your communications and training effectiveness, you want to ask employees, or you want to ask this question: did employees understand why the change was necessary? Which means awareness. One of the reasons why people say they resist a change is because of a lack of awareness. So, something else you want to do is track open rates of emails, track attendance at meetings or town halls, as well as tracking engagement on collaboration tools. So, for example, let's say your organization uses Slack or Teams or even Zoom for communications. When you are engaging with people, with impacted users, if you are experiencing crickets, meaning no one is responding, then that tells you that your change management successes is at a risk of failure because people are not, one, adopting, or two, resisting. One of the signs that you're running into resistance is where you see a lack of engagement. Something else you want to do for measuring your communications and training effectiveness is use surveys. You want to use surveys to identify communication gaps. A lot of times I have sent out surveys as I do change management consulting for a wide range of organizations. I also understand and I have to acknowledge that a lot of organizations are suffering what we call survey fatigue. Your organization is not, there's no exception there. A lot of your people are probably suffering survey fatigue. And so rather than sending out a survey via email, you might want to do a live survey during an engagement session where you can say, hey, everyone on this call, can you please just rate your awareness based on the communication that we sent out last week? And then on the call, people would just complete that survey. If you send out the survey via email, once again, you are sending a survey to people that are already survey fatigued, meaning that the receptiveness to your survey might not really be high. And that moves us to step number 4. For step number 4, you want to track adoption and usage continuously. Emphasis here is continuously. So don't stop at go live. Monitor adoption metrics such as system login frequency, feature usage. So, for example, if your organization is implementing Microsoft Copilot for M365, or if your organization is implementing Oracle Cloud or SAP S4 HANA or CRM like Salesforce or any application, or if your organization is implementing processes, you want to track how people are using the new tools or the new processes. And one way you can do that is you want to monitor dashboards. A lot of systems have dashboards on usage. You want to ensure that you are tracking those to compare adoption across departments and also regions. For training and support effectiveness, you want to review training completion rates and also test scores. You want to provide just in time resources, so like FAQs, video guides, as well as coaching. You don't want to overwhelm people with too many training. You want to provide the right amount of training and follow up with these FAQs, video guides, and also coaching. You also want to track support requests to see where employees are struggling. You want to gather ongoing feedback. So, for change management to be successful, you need to implement a two-way communication loop where you are communicating or you are having your leaders and other managers communicate, but at the same time, you are listening to impacted users. That's a two-way communication loop. So you want to conduct post-implementation surveys at 30, 60, and 90 days. These do not have to be surveys that you send out via email. At the end of a training, if it's a live training, you can have people complete a survey before they exit the training. If it's an online training, you could have a survey at the very end. You have a captive audience, and that is the right time to do a survey. A lot of organizations are survey fatigue. If you send out survey via email, you add to the survey fatigue. So as you walk around, ask those questions on the surveys at the end of something or in the middle of a session. You can say, hey, everyone, can we just take a few minutes to complete this survey? People will be more receptive to completing surveys that way. You also want to use focus groups to make sure you are listening directly from impacted users. And this next one is important. You want to close the loop. You want to ensure you close the loop. A lot of times when I do organizational change management, I ensure that we are going back to impacted users, especially those that provide us with feedback, to let them know how we are addressing the feedback that they provided. That really goes a long way. It's a similar thing that I did on a lot of the major transformational projects that I've delivered as a change management consultant, and also something that I encourage leaders to do. When I was at Apple, I encouraged leaders at Apple, oftentimes, when you hear employees and your direct reports mentioning things or providing you with feedback, it is great sometime in the future to go back to those same individuals to say, we heard you, and here is what we are doing to address the feedback or the concern that you are bringing up. Okay? And this brings us to step number 5. For step number 5, you want to link change to business outcomes. What do I mean by that? For this, you want to ensure that you connect adoption to financial or operational impacts. As an example, has productivity increased? Are projects being completed faster? Are costs and expenses reduced? This is really where your leaders see the most value. Whenever we discuss return on investment with leadership, they are more receptive to whatever it is we are communicating to them. And that brings us to step number 6. For step number 6, you want to reinforce and sustain the change. One thing that I normally tell project teams, as well as change stakeholders that hire me as a change management consultant to support changes within the organization, what I normally tell them is this: if you don't reinforce the new behaviors, users have a tendency of falling back on old behaviors. And so, to increase change management success, you want to celebrate quick wins and also highlight success stories. You want to provide any refresher training and embed changes in performance goals. You want to recognize employees and teams who model the change. And that could be as simple as having a VP send out a communication to all the managers of impacted users that are going far and above in adopting a change. Recognition goes a long way to help sustain new behaviors. I know I've said a lot of things today. So, to simplify how you achieve your change management success, I have created a ready to go checklist that walks you through each step. The checklist is a simple checklist that breaks the activities into the key steps. The link is below for you to have access to this checklist. Now, what we are looking at here on my screen is a screenshot of the checklist. I believe it's 2 pages. I just put them side by side so you can have a preview into what the checklist looks like. Very simple checklist. By following these key 6 steps to achieving organizational change management success, you will ensure that you stay proactive and not reactive, and help increase the successes of your projects as well as the success of your organization's change. Watch the next video and continue to increase your success. And also check out the free resources below, including free templates, free checklists, and a free trial to the OCM solution, all-in-one change management solution to help you in your professional journey. See you there.